You know, I didn't think I would be doing a capture card video for this channel, but I mean, look at this. How can I ignore this? I don't think most capture cards advertise at 22 FPS. Now, I was able to get this working, and in this video, I'm gonna take you on that journey. Cause, believe you me, it was quite the journey. No, we're not even doing the intro graphic that I honestly need to redo. We're just jumping right into this at 60 FPS, baby! Yeah! Smooth FPS. This is the EZCAP Game Link Raw, an inexpensive capture device that I solely bought because I got back into my Linux curious phase. Again. And I wanted a slight upgrade to my Elgato HD60. No, not the HD, not even the HD60S Plus. The original HDMI-only USB 2.0 capture device that records at 1080p at 60 FPS. It's a bit of a small upgrade, admittedly, because the Game Link in a way is a slightly better HD60. I received my unit Christmas Day of 2021. I set it up on my desktop computer, and I decided to play Sonic Mania because smooth animation, and... okay, something seems off here. This isn't 60 FPS. This isn't 60 FPS at all. This isn't even 30. According to the software I installed, it's 22 FPS. I got even less when I changed the color space from NV12 to YUY2. Not even 720p can get me up to 60. The best I can do is around 40. That's odd. Okay, I can record in 60, but really that just encodes the file at 60 FPS. That's not the actual frame rate that's being grabbed and captured. That would be the preview frame rate, which tells me if I hover over in a specific spot, your computer is too poor. Some frame has been discarded. Well, that's a problem. Same thing happens in OBS. This doesn't even properly show the FPS being captured in Windows. It says 60 FPS, but the footage is no different than the quote-unquote official recording software, GameLink. So I think the FPS counter in OBS is the frames that are being rendered by the software, and not what the capture device is grabbing. It's an inexpensive / cheap capture device, so I guess this isn't surprising, but as far as I can tell, no review has this issue that I'm aware of. There were times where I questioned if I was just imagining it, even going as far to go frame by frame in video editors, comparing footage that would also be taken with the Elgato. But yes, sanity confirmed. I tried looking up different solutions, but I couldn't find people with my exact issue with the device, so that search ended up cold. Well, it's a UVC device, a universal driver for webcams mostly. What if I looked up UVC device troubleshooting? Well, the suggestions mentioned that it could be an issue with the port or bandwidth being shared across devices, making it perform suboptimally. Even suggesting that I get a separate PCIe USB card, so I'm not taking up the bandwidth from the motherboard. Not wanting to resort to buying more hardware just yet, I tried a different port, unplugged all my devices from my computer, and the exact same result. Each time, 22 FPS. I'm getting a little frustrated at this point. Out of desperation and morbid curiosity, I plugged my USB device into a front USB port that I have on my case, and I now have 60 FPS all of a sudden. Okay. Normally you want to avoid using the front panel USB port, as it usually does not have the power for high-powered devices. But this seems to be working fine. That is until I realized that the audio has a tendency of being out of sync a lot of the time.
Damn it. Shoot.
And there were weird audio popping and skipping sometimes. Yeah, this doesn't work either. Okay, well, I bought this for Linux anyways. Might as well try it on Linux. As much as Linux gets a lot of flack for not being user-friendly sometimes, it's really good at quick fixes and/or troubleshooting if you know what you're doing. So I connected it to my 2014 gaming laptop running Pop! OS on NVIDIA drivers, loaded up OBS, and oh my god, it captures at 1080p 60 and YUI2 as flawlessly as I can observe. No choppy frame rate, no desyncing. this was both an OBS and GUVC view. Quick addendum, this seems to be half true now. In keeping in theme with me questioning my reality this video, the second I went to go get footage for this is the second I start dropping frames on OBS. You're just gonna have to take my word that this was working before I updated to the most recent version of Pop OS, but now it seems that actually trying to record on my laptop has encoding lag issues now, which basically means that my GPU is just barely too weak for 60 FPS at a consistent frame rate. This doesn't necessarily undermine anything of what I'm trying to prove in this video, just it felt wrong not to include it once I actually started to grab B-roll for this. Anyways, let's continue. By the way, good tip when testing if a card is capturing the full frame rate is that some of my best test footage is actually from the console's home screens, because they were designed with 60 FPS in mind. Of course, you'll still want to capture gameplay, but just keep in mind that some games have lower frame rates, and others have a tendency of dropping frames at intense moments. Especially true with a title like Infamous, which I have found constantly to have an inconsistent frame rate. But at least it's not 22 FPS constantly. If there's a more scientific way of testing this, please let me know, because purely doing this manually is making me feel like I'm being gaslit. Like, it got to the point of writing this video, I had to compare Mario Kart footage by hand just to confirm that I was correct. At this point, I got super curious and connected my MacBook Pro. I knew it wasn't powerful enough to actually record, but I had to know if the preview. The preview is better! Sure, the recording is complete and utter garbage, but that's to be expected. The preview was 60 FPS. And when I was recording, OBS gave me the correct FPS count. Though in hindsight, I was probably putting my poor MacBook at its limits, trying to encode footage that was way too huge for its processor, but it was still good to see that it seemed to be grabbing the frames properly. Okay, so this capture device works better on my 2014 laptop running Linux than it does on my Windows 10 PC. I may have questioned my sanity at this point. This indicates to me that the USB might not be providing the correct bandwidth or power or both from the rear I/O for a number of reasons that is needed to properly use this thing. But at this point, I was unaware if this was due to the hardware or the software. So what I did next was load up live ISOs of both AV Linux and Pop OS on my desktop to see if I could get better results on my rear I/O. Well, they were only able to use my Ryzen processor for encoding. It did better performance once I dialed in the right settings. Pop OS could even manage the full 60 FPS, even though it was only software encoding with x264. I was having some screen tearing with AV Linux, and it was only hovering around 50-ish FPS. I'm not sure if this is a kernel thing, or the Free Display Nouveau drivers thing. I'm really not sure on that. So, from what I gathered from this, it is possible that it's a Windows-related issue of some kind. Either how Windows handles USB or UVC, but that's kind of an uneducated guess from me. I don't know what I'm doing. However, I didn't want to install a new OS just to use this capture card. I am also currently out of hard drives and disk space. So, I knew that I would get different results by using something other than the rear I/O ports on the back of the motherboard, so I just bought a PCIe to USB 3.0 hub. Look, sometimes the answer to your problem is just to buy something. Don't want a 50-foot wire of Ethernet? Bam! Power line adapters. Can't live without them. But sure enough, once I opened up the GameLink software, 60 FPS! When recording, I observed no desyncing and no other audio issues like I did with the front USB port. The only issue is that I can't get to 120 FPS in Windows still, but that's okay because I only really care about 60 FPS in YUI2. So I'm very happy to get this USB device working. But now I have a nagging curiosity. This could be a weird issue with some units, or maybe it's something that's wider than any of us are aware. My friend Brandon also told me that Windows has some weird power saving rules that kick in sometimes to reduce power usage. So maybe that's it? The funny part was after I solved my issue, I found out that Matt CK had a similar issue with his Cloner Box Pro. Even has similar software with a branding switch. This was kinda surreal to watch. Though a key difference between his issue and my issue is that for him, switching the operating system didn't seem to fix his frame rate issues when watching the video back, so I'm unsure if what I found here could help him. Sorry Matt, if you're watching. So yeah, those are the trials and tribulations I had with this device. If you had similar issues with a capture device, please let me know, what you did to troubleshoot and try to fix your issue. I'm not very knowledgeable on how to properly diagnose the issue with this thing, but I had some few good guesses, apparently. Like my friend said, it could just be the Windows power management and whatnot. And there's no way that I'm the only person that dealt with this. It's gotta be a little bit more common than just one guy. Aside from that, thank you for watching a Canadian prove that he's not insane. I'm not, by the way. And if you enjoyed this video, you might enjoy future content where I explore the laptop featured in this video that I put Pop! OS onto. It's one of the bigger projects, but I hope to get it done before the end of this year, unlike, well, a lot of other bigger projects that I did previously. I am now beholden to future me to get that done. And I guess past me. I'm not sure how that works, but be on the lookout for that. But if you like just my comedy, I have a backlog of videos on this channel, if you want to check them out. I like to think I'm funny. I don't know how to end this video. Last time on Neem's content. Okay, something seems off here. This isn't 60 FPS. That's odd. I may have questioned my sanity. So I just bought a PCIe to USB 3.0 hub. Look, sometimes the answer to your problem is just to buy something. So yeah, those are the trials and tribulations I had with this device. But there was more. God help us all. So there's a part 2. Because, you know, the moment you say, man, things are going great, is an invitation for the world to say, ha, bet. You know, it's funny. The original script for that video, EZCAP, story told at 60 FPS. That video originally had a bit where I was like, you know, I know I keep making big projects where I'm like gone for months at a time, but I need to make this video. And I cut it because, oh, the runtime's only like 10 to 15 minutes? Ah, too easy. Nah. Cap. So I get all the footage ready together, and I'm feeling really confident. I sit down at DaVinci Resolve, and I start editing the video. But what do I see, guys? What do I see? All the PS3 footage has a massive desync in it. Fuck. Okay, listen, I'm not proud about how mad I got over this, okay? But I need you to understand, you know, you attempt to solve this issue that you've been having for a while, and you think you solved it. So you decide, okay, you're gonna make a video on it. So you get the VO, you get the footage, and then you sit down to edit. And when you sit down to edit, you uncover more issues. It's like an allegory for my life. If you saw that video, you might have noticed that some of the footage is of the game Infamous for the PS3. Great game, I like it a lot. People actually wear masks in that game. During a quarantine. I'm not bitter at all. But what you probably didn't know was I was using an HDMI cable, not the components to an HDMI converter. That's right, the EZCAP Game Link RAW seems to have the ability to stripe the HDCP from the HDMI signal without the use of an active splitter. Even though, according to EZCAP's site, it shouldn't, so your mileage might vary depending on the device or firmware you have. But hey, I thought, great! This seems like an easy way for me to capture PS3 and upscaled PS1 and 2 footage. I can't wait to re-review Slay! And then, of course, desync PS3 footage. What's really annoying is that this only happens on the PS3. Or at least that's what I thought, because this also happens on the Wii, and it was probably happening on the PS2 as well. Which the PS2 has a really weird issue where, like, it actually captures the 240p signal. Probably has something to do with my converter pass-through thing that I'm using. But Yeah, it doesn't look the greatest when upscaling with that particular capture card. Yeah, probably want to retro tinker something if you're gonna do that. However, as far as I could tell, this wasn't happening with either the Switch or the PS4. Right after I noticed this, I recorded some more footage in Infamous, and I didn't see any desyncing issues. Odd. Then I tried to record for like about 2 hours, and everything was fine up until the 1 hour 30 mark, which then it would be desynced.
Yeah, keep it up. Just need a few more picks.
And it only happened after a certain point, so I don't think it's a frame rate mismatch. That's a hard word to say. Mitch. I swear English is my first language.
Yeah. And Santa Claus shot JFK.
However, that's when I was playing Infamous. When I was playing any PS2 emulation, I could consistently get this thing to desync at the 10-minute mark. That was super annoying.
You lose.
I'm not even going to go through all the various ways that I tried in vain to get this to work. It didn't matter when I tried to record. It didn't matter when I reactivated the device. It didn't matter the settings or the ports I used. It didn't even matter if I used the component cables in the end anyways. Every time it would desync, and I felt like I was losing my mind. I was so defeated at this point, I just thought that I would start using the HD60 again, because, like, it was reliable, I knew it worked. I'd have to use the component cables for the PS3, but I was fine with that anyways. But then I would have buyer's remorse, proving my brother right.
I hope you don't get buyer's remorse.
Then as a fluke, I decided to try EZCAPs, probably copied from somewhere else software. I was using OBS this entire time, and I prefer OBS, but maybe there's a specific issue with using it in this very specific scenario, and oh my god, I don't believe it. This is so stupid. It works in the software, the probably Chinese clone software. It works perfectly fine. Doesn't matter if it's the constant frame rate or the variable frame rate. I've tested both. It works fine. In the software, you know what? I consider this a win. Whatever. If I'm using the EZCAP software, fine. I'll use this. It's lame that it doesn't work in OBS, but there's a time where you have to call it. I don't want to be testing this thing all throughout my summer. It's time to put an end on this chapter and just accept that if I want to record on PS3, I'm going to have to use the EZCAP software. It is time to put an end to this, and it is time to rest. But what about Linux? Get in there. I mean, I did buy this for my little Linux excursion, so the question is, does the capture card desync on Linux in OBS with my Pop! OS install? No. Both the recording I did in 30 FPS and 60 FPS, even in spite of the frame drops, are perfectly in sync. So, yeah. I don't know what's going on with Windows. Hey, Future Neems here. I just discovered that this is the way of solving the Windows desyncing issue. Yeah, it seems that the video device capture source audio is bugged for older consoles with this device. Weird. Yeah, if you route the audio as a mic input or just add a separate audio source altogether, the video stays in sync. I don't have an explanation as to why or how this happens. It just does.
Is it really over?
I was gonna save this for part 3, but I figured if other people are having this issue, I might as well just share this workaround and see if it works for you. This is what worked for me. Let me tell you, it was pretty embarrassing finding this out, when the entire time I was doing that in Linux. Rip. Like, okay, with the first video, I could kind of take an educated guess of what might have been happening where I was getting the 21 FPS, right? Like, there's some logic behind that. I don't know what's going on here. I mean, like, if it's with the HDCP, right? Like, then why would I have the same issue with the component cable? And if it's a frame rate issue, why am I not having this issue on Pop OS or with the EZCAP Game Link software? I don't get it. I don't know if it's a UVC issue. I don't know if it's an OBS issue. It could be another USB on Windows issue again. Could I just be imagining this whole thing? I don't know. I feel like I've been in this hell for the last couple of months, and I might never, ever escape. I think Windows just hates this capture card.
Probably screw me up, send me on another mind trip.
But at least my curiosity is sated. I have ways to capture with this capture card. I can finally move on to other videos and put this behind me. Oh, there better not be a part 3.
Mission failed. We'll get them next time.
Okay, so it seems that for retro game capture, I might still need to use Elgato anyways, because I came across another issue with my PS3 capture, and this also happens on Wii. And if you have a trained eye, you might actually be able to see it. The black levels are crushed. What this means is that not only is the image darker, you're actually losing color information because when you're capturing it, the levels are past the range. Like, just look at Sonic's forehead here. It's the void. I can hardly make out Hulk's face here. Once again, this only seems to be happening with my older consoles such as the PS3 and Wii. This isn't happening with my PS4 or Switch. I suppose the best thing I can do is use my Elgato HD60 for now for the PS3 and Wii, and use the EZCAP for everything else. It's not the most eloquent solution, but at least I know it works. And I could always upgrade to something later if something catches my eye. Okay, listen, it was on sale, it is justifiable, and I'm freaking curious, like, come on, I gotta know.
The legend will never die.
There's gonna be a part 3. God damn it. Last time on Neem's content. 10 to 15 minutes? Ah, too easy. Nah. Cap. All the PS3 footage has a massive desync in it. When I was playing any PS2 emulation, I could consistently get this thing to desync at the 10-minute mark. It works in the software, the probably Chinese clone software. The black levels are crushed. Like, just look at Sonic's forehead here. It's the void. You know, I've kind of been dogging on the EZCAP Game Link Raw, and despite all my comments throughout this now 3-part video series, that wasn't my intention. I thought I would just have the one issue, and then I'd be done with it, but here we are on part 3. That being said, when the EZCAP works, it works well. But, I just seem to keep coming across weird issues, and especially with my niche use case for capture cards. But you know, I gotta know if other UVC capture cards do this as well on my system, right? Because, like, I'm Lisa Simpson in the club right now. You know the meme! Except I'm not in the club, because I don't go out. I'm incredibly lonely! In this case, the XR1 Lite. A UVC capture card by EVGA that I bought on Canadian Amazon on sale for under $100, just to see if I would have the exact same issues as I did with my EZCAP capture card. So let's start with the issue that started it all. Let's plug this into my motherboard and... You know what? I'm happy. I'm happy. But also, what? Yeah, so this works right out of the box with my motherboard. At least with modern consoles, there's no 21 FPS issues, nor are there audio issues like with the front USB port. A true 60 FPS experience in OBS, all without having to resort to the expansion card. Which only further confuses me about the EZCAP Game Link Raw. Like, why is it like this then? Especially when on the other computers it works fine. Linux and Windows. Maybe it's a motherboard or firmware thing. I don't know. Who knows? Honestly, there's not much else to say here. It works well, though the XR1 Lite can only pass through 4K. Which is fine because I usually record in 1080p anyways. Now to test my retro consoles, first starting with my PS3. I'll just go into Hulk Ultimate Destruction, and while the clips do seem fairly dark, I don't think they're being crushed. I had to compare and contrast in DaVinci and look at the scopes, and it does seem like there's a comparable difference in how the color is reproduced. It also seems that the XR1 Lite is a bit sharper in image quality compared to the Elgato's, if I'm reading these scopes and I'm looking at the, well, picture correctly. It's a little hard to tell the major differences without the scopes, but the scopes do tell us where the black levels lie. And when I went into my Wii to play Shadow the Hedgehog, night and day difference. Sonic's face is no longer in the void. We did it, guys! In fact, it got to the point where I actually daisy-chained all of my capture cards into a little row. This is what it means to go even further beyond. Just to prove that, yes, at least with my EZCAP unit, the dark levels were so low they were in fact clipping. Well, with the XR1 Lite, the darker levels were still within the color range. That can also be confirmed by raising the midtones in gamma in your OBS or chosen NLE. At the time, I thought the XR1 Lite was still darker than the Elgato, but now I'm starting to think that was just me being paranoid after the first time. After further inspection, the Elgato and the XR1 Lite have pretty similar color ranges, though the XR1 Lite has the, well, cleaner image. Though because of this paranoia, I thought that I might need the RetroTink just to be sure, as the RetroTink does have the ability to switch between limited and full RGB over HDMI for its output. I'm a bit clearer head now that some time has passed, though I am still interested in doing that test. Just not right now, because that's kinda far beyond my budget. Remember that sentence now. Even without the upscaler, the image quality is still cleaner than what I got with the Elgato. This capture card might actually be worth retro game capture if you have some way to convert the analog to digital, or if you have an HDMI mod. There is still one other issue, however. The audio desyncing for retro games. And this time it's worse on the XR1.
Finally, justice is served!
And it seems to happen the second I hit record every time. Now, I did try to Google thinking EVGA would have more support, or this would be a well-known problem on a brand more recognizable than the EZCAP. Sure enough, first forum I came across with my exact issue, but with the FrameMeister, and, well, the advice that was given was that using a separate audio input that's not the video capture device. Wait, that means... No, it couldn't be. That would be really dumb if this...
I'd prefer not to do this, but we have no choice.
Time to die!
It's over!
Oh my god, it fixes it. And it fixes it for the EZCAP too. Yes, this is actually how I figured this out for part 2, by the way. It took me buying a whole other capture card just to figure out the issue for the capture card I had before. Oops. As you can tell, I script these well in advance of finding a solution. I'm smart, I swear.
Nothing makes sense.
So this means that it probably is a UVC issue, maybe? Or at least how the UVC interacts with the UVC driver. You know, the worst part about this is totally why it wasn't desyncing in Linux. Because I don't have the option to do that in the video capture. It's all separate audio for that capture card if I want to use it in Linux. It wouldn't have even been a thought to try that in Windows, because it worked with modern consoles. But why? Why only retro consoles? Well, it turns out that resolution switching was actually causing the issues, at least with the XR1 Lite. This actually checks out, because whenever I would record, I would be forcing 480p and or widescreen depending on the game. Though I do know that some games that are 240p also have 480i menus sometimes. That's kind of annoying. I actually found this out through a firmware update for the XR1 Lite from this year actually. Though fair warning, if you were to go find this, I think you can only update it with a Windows machine, correct me if I'm wrong. So that's annoying. But now with every problem solved, I can rest. How many months did this take me? It at least took my entire summer. Probably longer if you want to count the fact that I've been troubleshooting this since Christmas. But I think my resolution is clear. Going forward, I'm going to use the XR1 Lite. I can see why so many streamers and content creators recommend this honestly pretty cool capture card. I think I can finally sleep. But what if I did buy the retro chink though, guys? Come on. Like, you know, for upscaling. Like, come on, I gotta make it look good, right? Like, come on. Part 4, baby, let's go! I'm kidding. But I had you going though, didn't I? Yeah, but, like, I may make the retro chink video if this trilogy of me losing my mind does well. But I kind of want to focus on some other video for the time being. Maybe Animal Crossing. Kind of feeling Animal Crossing. Though, I kind of make videos on a whim, so who knows what's next? Like, I really need to make that Linux video, and I need to make a channel trailer at some point, and I also need to redo that opening graphic, and I kind of want to talk about the peer-to-peer services that I've been using. And, and SyncThing. SyncThing's great. I really want to talk about SyncThing at some point, and maybe I might do another Nuzlocke style video. And you know, I'm a fan of the Elder Scrolls, so you know, I kind of always wanted to check out Daggerfall for realsies. And I need to make that voting system video. I've been holding off on that for like 2 years now, and I need to make that video one way or another. And